let's talk about the fabric that you need for this quilt. So I've got all these strips that are left over from other projects, other quilts, and I've kind of just laid them out. Some of them are pressed, some of them aren't, so it really doesn't matter at this point. But I've kind of divided them into different sizes. And so as you can see, I've got some kind of thicker, wider size in this pile. I have some that are more on the thin side in this pile. And in this last pile, I've got some really big strips. And so these are just cut ends or whatever. They measure around 4 inches, 3.5 inches or more. And so I've got a variety of fabrics or strip sizes here. And this is really what you're going to want to collect for your quilts. Now, I'm going to be mixing up the lights and the darks. I'm really not worried about that. I'm not worried about fabric clashing. You know, I've got pinks, I've got greens, I've got different style of fabric. So I've got some that is more modern. I have some that is considered like Civil War. I have others that are more batik style prints. I've got some just, you know, classic kind of old-fashioned-ish. I've got checkerboard, gingham check. I do have a variety. So this is one is a little more of a weave or a linen type fabric. This is a lot of fun to add. So if you have something like this, maybe even a polyester or a homespun, go ahead and add it in. Just have some fun with this quilt. Don't worry about crazy fabric. I have some that has like this gold fleck in it. This one is a diamond on point with ballerina shoes, like totally random there. I believe I have some that, I'm going to see if I can find it here. Oh, here's more ballerinas here. I've got some checker print and stripes, a variety of stripes, a variety of flower prints, animals, as well as like more background with floral print on it. So this quilt really doesn't matter what you have. It's not picky, it's not choosy. You're going to use a variety of widths. This one is just a little bit on the thin side. I'm not sure if I would do that. It does take you longer if you choose to use skinny pieces. It does take you longer to build the block because it is larger than 12 inches. And so you are going to notice that you'll like these wider strips a little bit better because at one time you can add a lot of inches and make up some ground for these blocks. Let me show you some of the blocks that I have finished, just so you have an idea of what I have done. So this is going to be just one block. So one block has this 4-patch center with the points, and then I've sewn on 2 sides of this. So as you can see, I've got a thinner piece, I've got a really wide piece. I go back to a thinner, and then another thinner as well along the bottom. This is my last piece going vertically. And so as you can see, it ended up to be quite thin, but I'm not too worried about that because that's what happens when I trim it down, and then I'll be adding a border to it. So it turns out okay. Again, you can see that happen on the block below. So when you trim these up, you will find that you'll have smaller pieces happening unintentionally, but they just do. So it really just depends. So I've got a nice thin border right here, and then mediums, and then I go to the larger medium, and then a medium, and then really large. And then my last border on the outside here is just kind of a regular, probably 2-inch strip, as well as the stripe. So just have fun. Don't worry about your placement. Just make sure that when you place these blocks side by side, that you don't have any one piece that touches, connects, or is identical or matching to the other side. So as you can see on this one, I've got the ballerina print, I've got a flower print, a different flower print, a bright orange, kind of a Civil War red, the pink, I've got the stripes, and I've got more crazy flowers down there. So this really is just to have some fun. Dig around in your stash, find those pieces that you don't really love that can get lost in a quilt like this. It's a lot of fun to kind of pick and choose what they are and really not worry about it at all. Now, as for the center of the star area of the block, so each block is going to have these, just 2 points of each star. And as you can see, I've got a variety of backgrounds for these. Some of these backgrounds you'll also see in the quilt as a strip. So don't worry about repeating those. Just make sure that like the next piece I do isn't the same as that piece for this for the star or for the background pieces. So for each of these sections, you're going to need 2 blocks that have good contrast to what you choose for your star points. So for these star points, I believe I chose, it looks like a black with a little white star speck on it. But I really used my colors in this as well. I didn't worry about making these all light or, tone on tones or anything like that. I mixed these up. They have good contrast with the points, so the star still stands out. Because otherwise, if I did all of these in a really light background color, then this star would really stand out and not be as scrappy looking. So just be aware of that when you are picking your colors. And again, it's fine to repeat this later on in the block. Just don't put it right close to each other. And as you can see, I've got this background and this background and this background. They're all the same. That's just fine as well. So when you get these blocks individually laid out, you can move them around when you're playing with the placement. Now for each half square triangle that you put together, or each square that you put together to make your half square triangles, you're going to end up with 2. And so these ended up into be, you can see that they do match, but I made sure that these larger pieces for the background squares didn't match. And so the block overall doesn't read identical to this one, even though 2 of the pieces are. So just be aware of that. You can make all your half square triangles at once and then mix and match so you don't end up with pairs. But even when you do end up with a pair in the same block, you're not going to recognize it because you have other fabric going in the other placement areas. So the other thing you're going to need is fabric for your outside border. I've chosen just a dark one, so it's got a good contrast with anything happening along the side, and it's a great place for the eye to stop. Now, I don't have my outside border quite yet shown, but it is going to be a 4-inch wide border. So you're going to, again, dig through your piles of strips that you have left over, mix and match your variety, go for the really thick to the super skinny. These are going to be standing vertically along the outside of the quilt. And so you can either cut your strips down to 4 inches, or you can sew a few of these together. So if I sewed these together just to the length that they are and then trim them to 4 inches, that would be great as well. So again, on your outside border, you're going to have some fun mixing and matching your pieces. You've got the instructions on what length to make that overall for the outside border. So those can be easily added on. In the 4 corners of the quilt, So you'll have your strip border here. So it'll come along here, and then in this, in like this outside corner here is going to be one piece of fabric. So you can either repeat what your border is, or you can find something else that gives a little pop in the corners. These four corners can be the same, or you can choose those to be scrappy as well and not match. So it's really up to you and what you do with your fabric placement, how you set up your lines and your rows. This is hopefully going to be eating up a lot of your scrappy strips collection.